Good morning, I'm Antonio Mora, and this is NBC Nightside. Hurricane Andrew is picking up speed and gaining strength as it moves toward Florida. Andrew is centered 475 miles east of Miami with winds of 120 miles an hour. You're looking at the first pictures from the eye of the storm. They were taken by members of the National Oceanographic Atmospheric Administration. Hurricane Andrew is the first hurricane of the Atlantic season. It's expected to hit the Bahamas and the Florida coast by Monday or Tuesday. The Clinton-Gore bus caravan makes its final stop today in Buffalo, New York. Yesterday, the Democratic ticket rolled into blue-collar towns in Ohio. Mark Strassman is following the Clinton-Gore campaign and has this report.
This bus campaign motors on and on into communities that are frankly flattered by the attention. The chance to see, to hear, to touch the man who asks for their vote. Youngstown, Ohio, for instance, not on the traditional campaign map.
One of you gave me an Ohio Buckeye, and I know what that means. If it's all the same to you, I think I'll keep it every day between now and November 3rd, and I'll remember Youngstown when the vote comes in.
It's just out of this world. I was crying.
Why?
Because it just thrilled me.
What's made this bus campaigning successful is its grassroots quality. It's not a television commercial, it's not a television interview, it's a personal appearance, often in an area that's just not used to that kind of attention. And to undecided voters, that personal appearance could just make the difference. Clinton's a relentless campaigner, 18-hour days, and he often seems to shake every hand in the room. He goes on, of course, to bash the Republicans time and time again in communities large and small that find themselves on this campaign's bus schedule. In Youngstown, Ohio, Mark Strassman reporting for NBC News.
The man Bill Clinton hopes to replace is doing some campaigning of his own. In Dallas, President Bush addressed an evangelical gathering where he reiterated his family values theme. He told the crowd that Democrats have all but turned their backs on God. Bush began the day in Branson, Missouri. He then spoke at rallies in Georgia and Alabama. Later today, the president will head to Springfield, Illinois. A rocket carrying a cable television satellite was deliberately detonated about 100 miles above the Atlantic Ocean. Less than 8 minutes after the rocket left Cape Canaveral, the Air Force sent the self-destruct commands by remote control. The rocket tumbled out of control after its booster failed. It's the second failure for rocket maker General Dynamics in the last year and a half. Police officers and federal agents have taken up positions around a remote cabin near Naples, Idaho, where a standoff has developed with a fugitive. Authorities say Randy Weaver, a white supremacist, and his family are holed up in a remote mountaintop cabin. A U.S. Marshal was shot and killed while trying to arrest Weaver on Friday. Special Agent William Deegan was on assignment with 5 other marshals when he was shot by Weaver. Mike Macklin has been following the standoff, and he spoke with friends of the slain U.S. Marshal.
Outside his Quincy home, stunned and saddened colleagues of William Deegan spoke highly of the 42-year-old Marshal's deputy who died in the line of duty.
He was indestructible. The toughest assignments we had, I can't tell you how many I've sent him on. He's the most efficient.
A graduate of North Quincy High School and the University of New Hampshire, William Deegan was married and the father of 2 sons. Deegan was a 14-year veteran of the Marshals Service and a member of its Special Operations Group, an elite unit called in for high-risk assignments like the one he died on.
We try to take the fugitives off the street as quick as possible to prevent new crimes, and desperate people commit desperate crimes.
He knew exactly what he wanted to do in life, what he wanted to do with his military career, what he wanted to do with his military men.
Those who knew him say William Deegan died in the kind of dangerous situation where his talent and leadership were needed and will be sorely missed. In Boston, Mike Macklin for NBC News.
A cruise ship sank Sunday about 2 hours after colliding with a fishing trawler off the coast of Malaysia. The Greek-managed Royal Pacific went down in the streets of Malacca with about 500 people on board. At least 2 people are dead, and reports put the number of people missing at anywhere from 10 to more than 100. Coming up next on Nightside, Floridians are stocking up on fresh water and canned goods just in case Hurricane Andrew releases its fury. And later on, Republicans are back on the offensive following the Republican National Convention. Much of the American West remains a tinderbox. In Idaho, 2 major range fires are burning out of control. They're both located about 25 miles southeast of Boise. Approximately 232,000 acres are on fire, and firefighters say the smoke is too thick to allow the use of helicopters and tanker aircraft to help extinguish the fires. At least 1,000 people have been evacuated from nearby towns. No injuries have been reported. Hurricane Andrew is roaring toward the southeast coast of Florida. Forecasters are warning residents there to prepare for what may be the area's worst storm in decades. Ron Kendrick reports on how Floridians are taking the threat seriously.
Grocery stores are usually busy on Saturday mornings. On this day, however, many are here to stock up just in case Hurricane Andrew decides to pay a visit to Central Florida. During a hurricane, power can be out for an extended period of time. Municipal water supplies could be tainted. That's why many here this morning are buying what could be essential items.
Well, we're stocking up on canned stuff and medical supplies and water and fruit, and hopefully it doesn't hit.
This weekend is not too early to plan for the storm. Some who've been through hurricanes before said they were wasting no time in getting ready.
I've been through at least 8 or 10 hurricanes. Lost homes, cars, boats, everything. From Massachusetts on down, no way.
Many have been through this drill before, but even they need to do some double checking this weekend.
Even if you have made preparations before and have what you feel to be an adequate supply of emergency gear, certainly now would be a good time to check it. And don't wait until the last minute.
Even a minimal storm shouldn't be taken lightly. Preparation for a hurricane is a must. I'm Ron Kendrick for NBC News.
Let's take a look now at the Sunday morning weather forecast. Here's Marty Caniglio.
Good morning. Everybody's talking about Hurricane Andrew headed toward the Florida coast through the Bahamas. During the course of the day, he continues his westward motion and will strengthen. We'll have updates live from the Hurricane Center in Miami later on Nightside. Nationwide today, pretty strong cold front moving down through the Midwest, cooling things down there. Of course, with all the moisture in the southeast, we're going to have a lot of rain in Florida today, also along the Gulf Coast, where we don't really need it. We've had a lot of rain down there in the last couple of days. Warming up in the northeast, dry conditions there, temperatures mostly in the 80s. Back to the west, moisture coming off of Lester, who's a hurricane moving into Baja California. That'll move through Arizona, where we've had heavy rain the last couple of days. In the Rocky Mountain areas, thunderstorms in some places. Up north in Montana, up to 6 inches of snow possible early in the day. That'll melt later on as temperatures warm into the 40s, if you can call it that. 40s and 50s in Montana, 60s all the way down to around Cheyenne, Wyoming. While back to the west, it continues to be hot in the interior sections of California. Temperatures there in the 90s to about western sections of Louisiana. 80s take over from there, and a brief spot of 70s in Maine. A beautiful day in New England today. That's a look at your Sunday. We'll be watching Hurricane Andrew the rest of the day. I'm Marty Caniglio for NBC Nightside.
One of the ocean's rarest creatures was accidentally captured far away from home. It's a giant turtle more than 6 feet long and weighing in at more than 700 pounds. The turtle was caught in a fishing net off the coast of Norway. That's 8,000 miles away from home. Apparently made a wrong turn at the Gulf of Mexico. And coming up on Nightside, a look back at the Republican National Convention. And in sports, the Pirates look to bounce back against the Giants. Kurt Gregory will have the details.
The most recent political polls indicate that last week's Republican convention had the expected positive effect on the Bush campaign.
And that, of course, is what party conventions are intended to do. Sandy Gilmore takes a look back at last week's events in Houston and what they may mean on November 3rd.
It took 4 days, but there they stood, the Family Values team. The purpose of this convention was not just renomination, but to serve as a giant broadcast antenna, sending out signals, mixed as they might be, to the key groups that make up the Republican coalition that has kept the GOP in the White House for so long. That's how so many disparate, not desperate, Republicans got to the podium last week. To shore up the Old Faithful, Republican leaders brought in Old Faithful. He's reported reliably to once have called Mr. Bush a wimp, but in Houston he was all supportive.
And tonight, I come to tell you that I warmly, genuinely, wholeheartedly support the re-election of George Bush as President of the United States.
But there are those further to the right. They had to be placated too.
The people of Eastern Europe got rid of their left-wingers. Isn't it time we in America got rid of our left-wingers?
Pat Robertson, former presidential candidate, ultra-conservative Christian, ever fearful of the Antichrist. Another Pat, Buchanan, once Mr. Bush's nemesis in the early primaries, brought forth to show that red meat, scrappy, ethnic Catholics support the waspish patrician Bush, too.
We stand with President Bush. We stand with President Bush for right to life and for voluntary prayer in the public schools. There is a religious war going on in this country. It is a cultural war as critical to the kind of nation we shall be as the Cold War itself. But this war is for the soul of America. And in that struggle for the soul of America, Clinton and Clinton are on the other side, and George Bush is on our side.
Well, now that wasn't so kind and gentle, was it? For that, there was the First Lady talking family, family, family.
As in our family, as in American families everywhere, the parents we've met are determined to teach their children integrity, strength, responsibility, courage, sharing, love of God, and pride in being an American.
Family values. Republican operatives use those as code words to attract certain voters concerned with certain issues. It might be homosexuals, school prayer, racial integration, or just concern for children. Republicans have become masters at playing on family values. They have often succeeded in portraying Democrats as opposed to traditional families. Them versus us.
The gap between us and our opponents is a cultural divide. It's not just a difference between being conservative and liberal. It is a difference between fighting for what's right and refusing to see what's wrong.
Beyond appealing to basic groups that make up the Republican coalition, the convention also was used to define Bill Clinton, not just as a liberal on taxing, spending, and other actual issues. Several speakers, including the president, referred to Clinton's draft ducking and to his brief experiment with marijuana as a youth.
What about the leader of the Arkansas National Guard? The man who hopes to be commander-in-chief. Well, I bit the bullet, and he bit his nails.
You know something? I think he really did inhale.
And Republicans went after Governor Clinton's wife. That was unprecedented. Marilyn Quayle rapped the baby boomer Clintons.
But remember, not everyone joined the counterculture. Not everyone demonstrated, dropped out, took drugs, joined in the sexual revolution, or dodged the draft.
What it's all really aimed at, of course, is the general campaign.
And I'm honored to accept your nomination for President of the United States.
Conventions are giant word machines. Words mean different things to different people, and that's just what political operatives like about them. The other thing is, words count, and if you don't watch out, they can get a candidate elected. Sandy Gilmore, NBC News, Houston.
The latest polls still show widespread public discontent with the Bush administration because of the sluggish economy. Nevertheless, most analysts currently predict a very close race in November, and the polls are already showing that the gap is narrowing.
And it's expected to be a very bitter race. Even though the issue on both sides seems to be family values, expect a bitter contest. Kurt Gregory joins us with sports next on Nightside.
Kirk Gregory is here with sports and what was a big night in baseball, especially for Toronto's Jack Morris, who went back to Minnesota for the first time and showed them why he should never have left.
And won a very big game. I don't think there's anybody better.
He's a great pitcher.
When you need a win than Jack Morris, for sure. Toronto's Jack Morris goes back home to the Metrodome in Minneapolis Saturday for the first time since he nailed down Game 7 of the World Series for the Twins last fall. Twins fans wishing that he never left. Morris, his steady self against his old club. 7 innings. He allowed 1 run on 7 hits. Struck out 7 for the win. Go to the top of the 3rd now. The Blue Jays get those bats working. Robbie Alomar singling to right, scoring Pat Borders, and we're tied up at 1. Then in the 4th, Borders at the plate. An RBI single chasing home John Olerud, and Jack Morris getting the win as the Jays spank the Twins 4-2. Toronto's lead in the East is now 3 games. That's because the Orioles lost at home to the first-place Oakland A's. The A's struck for 3 of their runs in the first inning against Richie Lewis, Jose Canseco, doubling home Ricky Henderson to spark the A's to a 5-3 win. The news not all good for Oakland as slugger Mark McGwire is heading to the 15-day disabled list with a strained right rib. On the scoreboard then, the Jays win, as do the A's, 5-3 over the O's, and the A's now lead in the West by 6. It was the Red Sox over the Mariners. The Indians beat the Rangers 6-1. White Sox topping the Royals 3-2. Yankees over the Angels 3-0. And the Brewers beat the Tigers, final score of 5-1. Over in the National League, the Pittsburgh Pirates used the long ball to slay the Giants in San Francisco. Although the Giants got on the board first at Candlestick, Will Clark going deep on Doug Drabeck in the first. It's a solo shot that made it 1-0. Buccos come back. 2nd inning, Mike LaValliere, he gets all of Francisco Olivares. Hits it a ton. 2-run blown, it's 2-1 Buccos. 3rd inning, Barry Bonds says hello there. That's a 2-run shot. Jay Bell also homering as the Pirates bomb the Giants 9-2. Pittsburgh still up 3 in the NL East. To the scoreboard we go. Elsewhere, it was the Braves over the Cardinals 3-2. Atlanta now leading the West by 7 games. That's because the Expos beat the Reds 3-1. Astros all over the Phillies at 14-9. Cubs shade the Dodgers 5-4. Padres win 4-2 over the Mets. Gary Sheffield, a pair of home runs for the Padres. He now has 27 on the year. Well, a pair of big tournaments in the tennis world this weekend. First off at the Volvo International, Ivan Lendl outlasted Michael Chang in quarterfinal action. Lendl won in straight 6-3, 7-6. Other quarterfinal winners, Stefan Edberg, Malave Washington, Fabrice Santoro. Now, the U.S. Hardcourt Championships. Pete Sampras broke a 3rd set deadlock and went on to beat Boris Becker in semifinal action. Sampras gets Jim Courier in the finals. Courier had a tough time with Todd Martin, but won 7-6, 7-6. On to NFL preseason football, where the Houston Oilers embarrassed the New Orleans Saints at the Superdome. First quarter, Oiler QB Warren Moon goes deep. 34 yards right here to Hayward Jeffries. It's 13-0. Not much going right for the Saints. Quarterbacks Bobby Hebert, Vince Buck both failed to get it in the end zone, although Buck did hit a zebra. The Oilers roll over the Saints 33-3 in New Orleans. The NFL season now just a short while away. Quite a blow for the round. You bet. NBC Nightside continues in a moment.
Every hour on the hour. This is the 24-hour news beat.
It's 5:25. Federal officials are investigating a plane crash near Holland. The 2-seat aircraft propelled by an experimental engine went down near Park Township Airport, injuring the pilot. The plane had a 1930 vintage engine that had been refurbished. 18-month-old Jason Ashford is lucky to be alive today. The child nearly drowned after falling into a ditch at the Herman Gardens housing projects. City contractors had dug a trench to repair a hot water problem. Little Jason was taken to Children's Hospital, where he was treated and released. Children playing along the Clinton River in Sterling Heights made a gruesome discovery yesterday. They found the body of a man floating in the water. Police have no idea how the man died or who he is. An autopsy is scheduled to be performed sometime today. Residents in southwest Detroit are picking up stakes. Homeowners are selling to escape gang violence. They say they'd rather lose money than risk their children's lives. Hurricane Andrew is now moving up the Florida coast at about 14 miles an hour. Forecasters expect the storm to hit Miami sometime Monday. And in NFL action, the Detroit Lions defeated the New England Patriots 42-9. I'm Denise Tolliver. More news later on your 24-hour news station.
This is WDIV Detroit.
And finally, in this half hour, a woman is giving men a run for their money in one of the most macho of sports.
stock car racing.
NBC's Kenley Jones introduces us to Pamela Ballard.
Twice a day for 16 years, Pamela Ballard has driven a bus full of students to and from school.
Bye, Jessica. Have a nice weekend.
So when the weekend comes, how does she relax? By whizzing around a racetrack at close to 100 miles an hour.
You don't have to think about bills, jobs, or anything else. It's just you and that car.
And just you and your competitors, most of whom are men, and some of whom still don't cotton to the idea of women drivers on the racetrack.
They don't mind you racing with them, but if you beat them, sometimes it becomes a different story.
What do they do?
Oh, every now and then you get bumped if you get in the way.
She believes that's what caused this crash 2 years ago, which totaled her race car and cracked 3 of her ribs. When she's not driving a school bus or driving her race car, Pam can usually be found working on the car. It's a family affair. Her father, Jim, was a race car driver, and now Pam, who is divorced, is helping her son, Lane, build his own car. She's a little nervous about that. Kenley Jones, NBC News, Oxford, Georgia.
I'm not sure how much I'd want to be the parent of one of the kids on that school bus, but Pam says she's convinced them that her experience on the track makes her a safer driver off of it.
It probably is a little bit safer driver that way. This is NBC Nightside, a production of NBC News Channel, Charlotte, North Carolina.